Chapter 1, One Conversation Away. What if everything you've ever wanted, every goal, every opportunity, every dream that lives quietly inside you was 1,000 steps away, but just one conversation away? Not magic, not luck, not some hidden formula buried in a dusty book. Just a conversation. Words exchanged between you and another human being. That sounds almost too simple, doesn't it? And yet, if you take a moment to trace the turning points of your life, you might realize that many of them were sparked by a single dialogue. A yes from someone who believed in you. A piece of feedback that shifted your path. A question that forced you to see the world differently. Conversations are not small talk. They are bridges. They are catalysts. They are doorways that, when stepped through, can alter the direction of your life. The scene we all know. Imagine this. You're standing in a crowded room. Voices hum all around. Some people laugh. Others share ideas passionately. Others whisper at the edges. You try to blend into the background, but suddenly, someone turns to you with a microphone. It's your turn. The spotlight falls. Your stomach tightens. Your heart thunders. Your mind scrambles for words, but they scatter like startled birds. What do? Most people at some point in their lives have faced this moment, the moment where you are called to speak and fear meets you head on. Fear of saying the wrong thing, fear of sounding foolish, fear of not being enough. And too often we retreat into silence. But what do we lose in those moments? How many opportunities vanish simply because we never found the courage to give voice to what mattered inside us? That job interview where we didn't fully express our vision. That idea we kept locked in our head because we doubted its worth. That crucial conversation with someone we love that we avoided until it was too late. The tragedy is rarely that we lacked intelligence, creativity, or passion. The tragedy is that we didn't turn those gifts into words, and so they remain invisible, unshared, unheard. Words as seeds. Think for a moment about the weight of words. A simple sentence, "I believe in you," can lift someone who's on the edge of giving up. Another, "You'll never amount to anything," can scar for years. Words are like seeds. Some grow into forests of possibility. Others poison the soil they land in. And often, the speaker has no idea the impact they've just unleashed. We don't merely speak to exchange information. We speak to create. Every time you open your mouth, you're shaping relationships, trust, opportunities, even futures. You're either planting hope or planting doubt. And that raises a question worth pausing on. What are you creating every time you speak? The myth of perfection. Here's where many people get stuck. They believe they must be flawless communicators to have impact. They think they need an endless vocabulary, an academic tone, or the charisma of a politician. None of that is true. The truth is far more liberating. You don't need to be perfect. You need to be real. People don't connect with polish. They connect with humanity. They resonate not with robotic speeches, but with voices that dare to reveal vulnerability, conviction, and authenticity. Think back to a time someone spoke words that moved you. Were they perfectly phrased? Grammatically flawless? Probably not. But they were real. They carried honesty. They carried weight. That's what made them unforgettable. When you show up as yourself, unmasked, unpolished, unafraid to be human, you give others permission to listen, to relate, and to trust. Silence is not always golden. We've all heard the saying, silence is golden. And sometimes, yes, silence is wise. But there are moments when silence is not wisdom. It is surrender. Silence can mean missed chances. Silence can mean complicity. Silence can mean giving up your power before you even try. Every time you withhold your words out of fear, insecurity, or self-doubt, you forfeit a chance to shape reality. A conversation could heal a fractured relationship. A conversation could spark a new partnership. A conversation could ignite the very dream you've been holding inside. And yet, too often we choose to stay quiet. Why? Because beneath the surface, the real fear is not of words. It is of judgment. We fear not sounding intelligent enough, not interesting enough, not worthy enough. But let me share a secret. People are not inspired by perfection. They are inspired by truth. They are drawn to the rawness of someone who dares to be vulnerable. a hidden superpower. If you take nothing else from this chapter, take this. Your voice is your superpower, not the sound of it, not the smoothness or the volume, but the fact that it carries you, your story, your experiences, your perspective, your heart. No one else on the planet has lived what you have lived. No one else can see the world exactly the way you do. That uniqueness is not an accident. It's a gift. And the moment you begin to express it, you step into your power. Think of the ripple effect. A single sentence spoken with courage can comfort a friend, inspire a stranger, shift the direction of a meeting, or plant an idea that grows into a movement. That is the scale of what's possible every time you speak. The cost of staying quiet. But let's not sugarcoat it. Staying silent has a cost. Every unspoken idea, every withheld truth, every moment where fear wins, those accumulate. Over time, your voice begins to fade, not because it lacks power, but because you've trained yourself not to use it. Eventually, you may begin to believe the lie that your voice doesn't matter, that what you have to say adds no value, that it's safer to blend in than to stand out. But deep down, you know the truth. Silence doesn't protect you. It only keeps you from the possibilities, waiting on the other side of courage, a different way forward. So what's the alternative? It begins with a choice. To see your words not as ordinary, but as extraordinary. To recognize that each time you speak, you hold the power to influence not only others but yourself. Think about the moments in your own life when words transformed you. Maybe it was encouragement from a teacher, advice from a mentor, a heart-to-heart with a friend, or even a harsh comment that cut deep and forced you to grow stronger. If words could shape you, imagine what your words could do for others. You don't need to wait until you feel ready. You don't need another course, another degree, another guarantee. You need one thing: the willingness to use your voice imperfectly, authentically, today. A simple story. Let me tell you a story. There was once a young man who dreamed of starting a business. He had ideas, passion, vision, but he kept it all inside, scribbled in notebooks. He told himself, "I'll share it when it's perfect." Years passed. Nothing changed. One day, at a local gathering, someone asked him what he was passionate about. Instead of brushing it off, he shared his half-formed idea, nervously, awkwardly, but honestly. The person listening smiled. "I've been looking for someone to do exactly that. Let's talk more." That single conversation became the seed of his business, and it never would have happened if he had chosen silence. The point? Life-changing conversations rarely arrive scripted. They happen when you dare to show up imperfect and real. Your invitation. This chapter is not just an introduction. It is an invitation. An invitation to see your voice not as background noise, but as a force. You don't have to wait for a stage, a spotlight, or a microphone. Every interaction is an opportunity. With your family, your colleagues, your friends, even strangers. Each conversation holds a possibility of creating connection, healing wounds, sparking ideas, or unlocking doors you didn't know existed. And it all begins when you recognize this truth. You are already one conversation away. Practical reflection. Before you move on, pause and ask yourself, what is one conversation I've been avoiding out of fear? What is one truth I've been holding back that needs to be spoken? If I dared to speak it, what could change? Write it down. Don't just think about it. Capture it. This is your first step toward reclaiming the power of your voice. Closing thought. Your words have the power to shape lives, your own included. They don't need to be perfect. They need to be real. So when the moment comes when someone turns to you and says, "It's your turn," don't shrink back. Take a breath. Remember this chapter and speak, because everything you desire may truly be just one conversation away. Chapter 2, Your Voice Matters. Have you ever had a thought so clear, so vibrant, so alive inside of you, and yet when the moment came, you kept it locked away? Maybe you were in a meeting where ideas were being thrown around, and yours was right there on the tip of your tongue. But before you spoke, doubt arrived. What if it's not good enough? What if I sound foolish? What if no one cares? So you swallowed your words. Maybe you were with a group of friends, and something meaningful rose in your chest. A truth, a story, a feeling. But you told yourself they wouldn't understand. So you smiled and said nothing. Or maybe you've been carrying a dream inside you for years, a book, a business, a song, a conversation that could heal a wound. And you convince yourself that now isn't the right time. Tomorrow, you say, next year, someday. And in the silence, that dream waits. The question we all ask. There's a question that lurks in almost everyone's mind, though we rarely say it out loud. Does my voice really matter? And in the quiet moments, the answers we feed ourselves are often cruel. No one wants to hear me. Others are smarter. My ideas aren't original. Better stay quiet than risk looking foolish. But here's the truth you need to hear. Your voice matters because no one else can bring what you bring. No one else has your exact story. No one else has lived your mix of failures, triumphs, struggles, and joys. No one else has your combination of scars and strengths. That means your voice is not just important. It's irreplaceable. The weight of silence. Every time you withhold your voice out of fear, you lose more than a chance to speak. You lose a chance to influence, to contribute, to connect. Think back. How many times have you walked away from a conversation, wishing you had spoken up, wishing you had asked a question, shared the idea, defended yourself, or simply said what you really felt? It doesn't just happen once. It repeats, again and again. And each time, silence chips away at your confidence. If you're not careful, silence becomes a habit. And that habit can become an identity. You start believing you're the quiet one, the shy one, the person who doesn't speak much. Not because that's truly who you are, but because fear has written that script for you. But here's what most people forget. Silence is also communication. When you don't speak, you are still saying something. You're saying, my voice doesn't count. You're saying, I'd rather be invisible than risk being seen. You're saying, I don't believe I can add value. And those unspoken messages echo, not only in your life, but in the lives of those around you. The echo of courage. Now, let's flip the perspective. Think of a time when someone else spoke up, and their words hit you in a way that mattered. Maybe a teacher who encouraged you, a friend who told you the truth you needed to hear, a stranger whose words made you feel less alone. Do you remember how it felt? The relief, the validation, the sense that someone had put into words exactly what you couldn't. That's the power of voice. When you speak, you don't just represent yourself. You give voice to countless others who feel the same, but don't yet have the courage to express it. Your courage becomes contagious. Your authenticity gives permission. It's not just about you. It's about us. Your voice may be the one that unlocks someone else's. The myth of the loudest voice. We live in a world where volume is often mistaken for value. The loudest person in the room seems confident. The most charismatic speaker seems persuasive. The smooth talker seems powerful. But don't be fooled. Power in communication doesn't come from volume. It comes from alignment, when your words match your truth. Some of history's most moving voices weren't the loudest or the most polished. They were often quiet, reflective, deeply human. They didn't try to impress. They tried to express. And that sincerity is what shook hearts, shifted perspectives, and changed the course of lives. Your voice doesn't need to roar. It needs to resonate. Authenticity over approval. Here's a trap many fall into. Speaking in order to win approval. We craft our words to impress, to please, to earn applause. But when you speak to gain approval, you risk losing the most important approval of all, your own. Your voice isn't meant to be a performance. It's meant to be a reflection of truth. And the irony is this. When you stop trying to please everyone, you start connecting with the right ones. Authenticity will always outlast perfection. People may forget flawless speeches, but they will never forget honest words spoken from the heart. Finding your voice. So, how do you find your voice? It's not an overnight switch. It's a journey, a process of discovery, like peeling back layers until what's left is the most genuine version of you. Here are steps to begin. Notice when you feel most alive speaking. Pay attention to moments when you speak without hesitation. Maybe with a close friend, maybe on a subject you care deeply about. That's your natural voice trying to show itself. Start in safe spaces. Don't pressure yourself to deliver a speech to hundreds of people right away. Start small. Share your thoughts in a group of friends. Write them in a message. Record yourself speaking. Build strength in safe environments. Allow mistakes. You will stumble. You will fumble. You will wish you'd said it differently. That's part of the process. Don't demand perfection. Demand presence. Detach from universal approval. Not everyone will listen. Not everyone will agree. That's okay. Your voice doesn't lose value because someone else doesn't see it. Keep speaking. Like a muscle, your voice strengthens with use. Every time you speak, you grow. Every time you choose expression over silence, you reclaim a piece of yourself, a story of permission. Let me tell you about Maya. Maya was soft-spoken. At work, she often kept her head down. She had brilliant ideas but never shared them, convinced they weren't big enough. One day in a meeting, she decided just once to share. Her voice trembled. Her sentence was short, but she spoke. The room went silent. Then her manager leaned forward and said, "That's exactly what we needed. Thank you." That moment changed Maya's life. Not because she suddenly became the loudest voice in the room, but because she realized her words could carry weight. That single experience gave her the confidence to keep sharing. Over time, she didn't just participate. She led, and all of it began with one trembling sentence. Your first step doesn't need to be big. It only needs to be honest. The ripple effect. Never underestimate this. Your voice has ripple effects you may never see. You might say something in passing that stays with someone for years. You might express a feeling that helps another person feel less alone. You might share an idea that sparks a chain reaction, leading to something extraordinary. And sometimes you won't know the impact at all. But trust this, every time you speak with authenticity, something moves. Somewhere, a seed is planted. Somewhere, a ripple begins. Healing through voice. There's also another dimension to speaking up. Healing. When you finally voice something you've been holding inside, your pain, your truth, your apology, your gratitude, you release it. Words have the power to heal not only others, but yourself. Think of the relief of finally saying, "I'm sorry," or the freedom of admitting, "I was hurt," or the joy of telling someone, "I love you," instead of assuming they know. Silence can suffocate. Expression can liberate. Every time you dare to speak your truth, you mend a part of yourself. And sometimes you mend a bond with another person as well. Exercises to strengthen your voice. Before we close this chapter, let's make this practical. Here are exercises to start living the truth that your voice matters. Daily Voice Journal. Each day, write one thought you've been hesitant to say aloud. Write it as if you were speaking it directly. This trains you to bring your unspoken truths to the surface. Speak in safe spaces. Identify one friend, colleague, or family member you trust. This week, share something with them that you normally would have kept inside. Record yourself. Pick a topic you care about and record a 2-minute voice note just for yourself. Listen back, not to criticize, but to notice, when did I sound most like me? Micro bravery challenge. In your next group setting, commit to saying one sentence. Just one. Not a speech, not a performance, just a contribution. Celebrate use, not outcome. Each time you speak, reward yourself, not for the reaction you get, but for the courage it took to use your voice. Closing reflection. Your voice matters. Not someday. Not when you perfected it. Not when the stage is ready. Now. Because your voice is not just about sound. It's about presence, identity, and impact. Every time you choose to speak, you reclaim your place in the world. Every time you give voice to your truth, you remind yourself and others that authenticity matters more than perfection. So the next time you think, "Why speak? No one will listen," remember this: you don't need everyone to listen. You just need to speak. Because your voice has value the moment it leaves your lips. And the world needs it. Because the world has never heard anything quite like it. Chapter 3, Listening. The Hidden Superpower. There's a paradox in communication that most people never notice. The best communicators in the world are not those who speak the most. They are those who listen the best. Think about it. When was the last time you felt truly heard? Not just nodded at, not just tolerated, but really listened to, where someone leaned in, gave you their full attention, and made you feel like your words mattered? How did it feel? Chances are you felt lighter, seen, respected, maybe even loved. That's the power of listening. It transforms ordinary interactions into extraordinary connections. And yet, in our noisy world, listening has become one of the rarest skills of all. A culture of noise. We live in an age of constant broadcasting. Social media platforms beg us to share, post, tweet, go live. Everyone wants to be seen. Everyone wants to be heard. Everyone wants the spotlight. But who is left to listen? Conversations have turned into competitions. Instead of dialogues, they become duels. Each person waiting for their turn to speak, rehearsing their response in their head while the other person is still talking. The result? People feel ignored, misunderstood, invisible. We confuse speaking louder with communicating better. But the real secret, the superpower hidden in plain sight, is listening. What listening really means. Most people think listening is passive. You sit back, stay quiet, and let the other person talk. That's not true listening. Listening is active. Listening is intentional. Listening requires presence. To listen is not just to hear the words, but to understand the meaning behind them. To tune in not only to what is being said, but also to what is left unsaid. The pauses, the tone, the body language, the emotion beneath the surface. True listening says, I am with you. I see you. I care about what you are sharing, not just because of the content, but because it's coming from you. That is why listening is not silence. It is presence, a story about silence. Let me tell you a story. A young woman named Eliza once spoke to me about her father. Growing up, she often felt unseen. Her father was a busy man, always on the phone, always with papers in his hands. Whenever she tried to tell him about her day at school, he would half listen. That's nice. Keep going. But his eyes never left the screen. One day, after winning a small award at school, she rushed home excited to tell him. She stood in front of his desk, holding the certificate. He barely glanced up. That's good, sweetie. Can you close the door? I have work to finish. Years later, Eliza confessed something heartbreaking. It wasn't that he said the wrong things. It's that he never really listened. I would have traded all the words for just 5 minutes of real attention. Do you see? Listening is not about words. It's about presence. When we fail to listen, we tell people, whether we intend to or not, that they are not important. But when we do listen, even for a few minutes, we communicate something powerful. You matter. Why listening is hard. If listening is so powerful, why do so few practice it? There are 3 main reasons. The ego trap. We're wired to make conversations about ourselves. We want to share our story, our perspective, our joke. So while someone else is speaking, we're busy preparing what we will say next. The distraction era. Phones buzz. Notifications ping. Multitasking has become the norm. Even when we want to listen, our attention is fragmented. We are everywhere, except here. The illusion of knowing. We assume we already understand. Halfway through someone's sentence, we interrupt with, yeah, I know where this is going. But assumptions cut off discovery. We miss the nuance. These habits steal the chance for real listening. And real listening is where connection lives. Listening as leadership. Think about the leaders you respect most. Are they the ones who always had the most to say? Or are they the ones who gave you their attention, who made you feel valued? True leadership is not about having all the answers. It's about creating space where others can share theirs. When you listen as a leader, whether in a workplace, a family, or a friendship, you build trust. And trust is the foundation of influence. People don't follow the loudest voice. They follow the one that makes them feel heard. The gift of empathy. At its core, listening is an act of empathy. When you listen without interrupting, judging, or rushing to fix, you are saying, I am willing to enter your world for a moment. I am setting aside my agenda to understand yours. This doesn't mean you always agree. Listening is not agreement. It's acknowledgement. You don't have to share the same opinion to respect the experience of another person. And here's the irony. When people feel heard, they often become more open to hearing your perspective. Listening first doesn't weaken your voice, it strengthens it. The hidden strategy. Listening is not just about kindness. It's also incredibly strategic. When you listen carefully, you gain information that others miss. You catch details that reveal what someone really needs, wants, or fears. In negotiation, listening reveals leverage. In conflict, listening reveals misunderstanding. In relationships, listening reveals emotion. The one who listens best often has the most influence because they understand the landscape others overlook. Levels of listening. Not all listening is equal. Let's break it down. Fake listening. You nod, smile, and say, uh-huh, while your mind is somewhere else. The speaker can usually sense it. Surface listening. You catch the words, but you don't engage. You hear the story, but not the meaning. Active listening. You give full attention. You notice tone, body language, and pauses. You ask clarifying questions. You reflect back what you heard. Empathic listening. You go deeper. You don't just understand words. You understand emotion. You feel with the other person. You give them the rare gift of being fully seen. Most people hover between fake and surface listening. Very few practice empathic listening. But those who do, they become unforgettable. Practical tools to listen better. Let's make this practical. Clear the noise. When someone is speaking, put away distractions. Silence your phone. Close the laptop. Show them they have your full attention. Use body language. Eye contact, nodding, leaning in slightly. These nonverbal cues say, I'm with you. Ask open questions. Instead of yes/no questions, try, how did that make you feel? What was most challenging? What do you hope happens next? Reflect back. After they finish, say, so what I hear you saying is, this shows you're paying attention and invites them to clarify. Pause before responding. Most people rush to reply. Instead, take a breath. Let their words settle. Sometimes the silence itself encourages them to share more. A small example. Not long ago, I spoke with a man who had lost his job. He was pouring out his fears, bills piling up, family depending on him, future uncertain. My instinct was to jump in with solutions. Update your resume, network, apply here. But instead, I just listened. For 15 minutes, I said almost nothing except, that sounds hard. Tell me more. At the end, he sighed in relief and said, thank you. I just needed someone to hear me. Notice, nothing in his external circumstances had changed. He still had bills. He was still unemployed. But inside, something had shifted. He was no longer alone in his struggle. He had been heard. And sometimes that's the first step to healing. Listening to what's not said. Great listeners also pay attention to silence. When someone avoids a topic, hesitates, or chooses words carefully, there's often something beneath the surface. Sometimes a real story hides in the pauses. A friend says, I'm fine, but their shoulders slump. A colleague says, no problem, but their jaw tightens. If you're attentive, you can gently explore and notice you pause, what's on your mind, or I sense there's more. Do you want to share? Listening is as much about reading the unsaid as it is about hearing the said. Listening to yourself. Here's something we rarely talk about. Listening is not only about others, it's about you. How often do you truly listen to yourself? To your intuition, your body, your emotions? We drown our inner voice with noise, scrolling, rushing, numbing. But your inner voice has wisdom. It whispers when you're exhausted, when you're inspired, when something feels wrong. If you don't listen to yourself, you'll struggle to listen to others. Because presence begins within. Exercises to train listening. Let's close this chapter with practical steps you can start today. The 2-minute rule. In your next conversation, let the other person speak for 2 full minutes without interrupting. Resist the urge to jump in. Just listen. Reflective phrases. Practice responding with, what I'm hearing is, that sounds like, so you felt. This not only shows attentiveness, but deepens understanding. Silence challenge. Next time you feel the urge to fill a silence, don't. Let the pause breathe. See what emerges. Daily listening journal. At the end of the day, write down one moment where you truly listened or failed to. Reflect on what you noticed. Listen to yourself. Spend 5 minutes in quiet each morning. No phone, no noise. Ask yourself, what do I feel today? What do I need? Closing reflection. Listening is not weakness. It is not passivity. It is power. It is the hidden superpower of communication. The ability to make others feel seen, to uncover truths, to build trust, to influence without force. Most people chase being heard. Few master the art of hearing. But those who do, they stand out in every room, every relationship, every opportunity. So the next time you enter a conversation, remember, your greatest impact may not come from what you say. It may come from how you listen. Chapter 4, Less is More. Picture this. You're sitting across from someone who won't stop talking. Their words spill out in endless waves, circles, tangents, repeated points. You nod politely. But inside, you're counting seconds, waiting for the moment you can escape. Now flip the scene. You're the one speaking. You're passionate. You want to explain everything. You want to make sure they really understand. So you add detail after detail, layer after layer. But when you finish, you notice the blank look. They tuned out 3 minutes ago. We've all been on both sides of that table. The lesson is simple but profound. Speaking more does not mean communicating more. The power of clarity. True communication is not about quantity. It's about clarity. One clear sentence can strike deeper than 10 confused paragraphs. Think about the words that changed history. I have a dream. Yes, we can. Never again. Liberty or death. None of these needed a page of explanation. They were short, sharp, unforgettable. Clarity cuts through noise. It shows confidence. It respects the listener's time and intelligence. When you strip away excess, your message shines. Why we overspeak. If brevity is powerful, why do we keep talking too much? Several reasons. Fear of silence. Silence feels awkward. We rush to fill it, as though quiet means weakness. Insecurity. We think, if I keep talking, they'll see how smart I am. But often, the opposite happens. The more we over-explain, the less confident we seem. Unclear thinking. When our own ideas aren't clear, we ramble. Rambling is usually a symptom of confusion, not lack of vocabulary. Desire to control. Sometimes we flood the air with words to keep control of the conversation. But it backfires. People disengage when they can't breathe. A story of too many words. A man named Victor once pitched an idea to investors. He prepared slides, data, stories, everything he could think of. For 40 minutes he spoke nonstop. By the end, the investors looked drained. One of them finally said, "Can you summarize your idea in one sentence?" Victor froze. He couldn't. His message had drowned in the flood of his own words. The pitch failed. Later, a mentor told him, "If you can't say it simply, you don't understand it deeply." That line changed everything. Victor cut his next pitch down to 5 minutes. And this time, the investors leaned forward, engaged, and said yes. The gift of brevity. Speaking less doesn't weaken your voice. It strengthens it. It creates focus. People remember one strong point, not 10 scattered ones. It creates authority. Those who speak with restraint seem more confident, more in control. It creates connection. Brevity leaves room for others to think, respond, and engage. There's wisdom in the old saying, "Don't use a gallon of words to deliver a teaspoon of meaning." The role of pauses. Here's a paradox. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can say is nothing at all. A pause, when used intentionally, carries weight. It gives your words space to land. It shows confidence. You're not afraid of silence. Imagine saying, "I believe in you." Pause. More than you realize. The pause makes the second line hit harder. Without it, the sentence rushes past. Pauses are not empty. They are punctuation. They are oxygen. Less is more in relationships. This principle isn't only for speeches or meetings. It applies everywhere. Think about apologies, which feel stronger. "I'm really sorry about what happened yesterday. I didn't mean to, it was just one of those moments where I wasn't thinking, and I hope you can forgive me, because I really didn't intend." Or simply, "I'm sorry. I was wrong. Which one carries more weight? The second, short, honest, direct, or consider love, which feels truer. I just want you to know that you mean so much to me, and I care about you deeply, and every time I think of you, I realize how important you are in my life. Or simply, I love you. Fewer words, deeper impact, less is more in leadership. Great leaders understand brevity. Abraham Lincoln's Gettysburg Address, one of the most famous speeches in history, was only 272 words long. He spoke for under 3 minutes, yet it outlived speeches of thousands of words delivered that same day. Why? Because brevity forces precision. When you don't waste words, every word counts. The discipline of editing. Brevity doesn't mean being careless. It means being intentional. To speak with clarity, you must edit. Just as writers cut pages to reveal the essence, speakers must cut words to reveal the message. Ask yourself, what is the core of what I want to say? If I had only 30 seconds, how would I express it? Which words are essential and which are noise? Editing is discipline. It takes effort to strip away excess. But the reward is clarity, authority, impact, a story of simplicity. Steve Jobs once explained technology by saying, "It just works." 3 words. That was it. He could have gone into technical detail, listed specifications, compared processors, but he chose simplicity. And because of that simplicity, people remembered. They understood. Complexity confuses. Simplicity sticks. Practical techniques for brevity. Here are some practices to help you speak with less, but say more. Think before speaking. Pause for a second. Ask, what's the one thing I really want to say? Then say that. Use short sentences. Avoid endless clauses. Break your thoughts into clear, direct lines. Cut filler words. Words like basically, like actually dilute impact. Remove them. Replace explanations with examples. Instead of describing something at length, give one vivid example. End early. Most people overstay their welcome when speaking. When you made your point, stop. Leave them wanting more. Exercise is a practice. Less is more. Let's make it actionable. 1-sentence challenge. Take an idea you want to share. Summarize it in a single sentence. If you can't, you don't understand it clearly enough yet. The 10-word limit. Next time you want to express something important, an apology, gratitude, encouragement, try to say it in 10 words or fewer. Silence practice. In your next conversation, when you've made your point, stop talking. Let silence do the rest. Cut the draft. Write a message or email, then cut out half the words. You'll be surprised how much stronger it becomes. Read speeches. Study famous short speeches. Notice how much weight they carry in so few words. Closing reflection. Words are like jewels. Their value increases when they are rare, not when they are piled up carelessly. The truth is, people don't remember everything you say. They remember the essence, the phrase that hit home, the moment of silence that lingered. So speak less, mean more, because communication is not measured in syllables. It's measured in impact. And sometimes, the most powerful words are the ones you never had to say at all. Chapter 5. What you don't say also communicates. You've heard the saying, actions speak louder than words. It may sound cliché, but it contains a truth that science confirms again and again. Communication is not just what comes out of your mouth. In fact, much of what people understand from you has little to do with your words, your posture, your tone, your expressions, your silences. These often tell the story louder than language ever could. The silent language. Imagine this. You ask a friend how they're doing. They reply, "I'm fine," but their arms are crossed. Their shoulders are slumped. Their eyes avoid yours. Their voice is flat. Do you believe the words or the body? Most of us believe the body, and for good reason. Our subconscious brains are wired to read signals beyond speech. It's a survival instinct. Long before humans invented words, we relied on body language to gauge trust, danger, emotion. That wiring still runs the show today. Which means this: every moment, whether you intend to or not, you are communicating. Even your silence has a voice. When words and signals clash, consider this scene. A manager stands in front of her team and says, "I'm open to hearing your ideas," but her arms are tightly crossed. Her jaw is stiff. She keeps glancing at her phone. Does the team feel safe to share? Probably not. When words and body signals conflict, people almost always trust the body. That's why congruence, alignment between what you say and how you say it, is the foundation of credibility. You can memorize perfect sentences, but if your body tells a different story, the words will fall flat. Everything communicates. Here's the truth. You can't not communicate. Your silence communicates. Your eye contact, or lack of it, communicates. The way you sit in a chair, the way you shake a hand, the way you walk into a room, all communicate. And the messages often receive long before you speak a single word. People form impressions in seconds. Studies suggest it takes less than 7 seconds for someone to decide if you're trustworthy, confident, approachable. And those judgments are based far more on your nonverbal cues than your verbal ones. The body is a mirror. Your body is the mirror of your inner state. Nervous? Shoulders tighten, breast shortens, voice wavers. Excited? Eyes widen, hands animate, posture expands. Defensive? Arms cross, body leans away, lips pressed together. Whether you want to or not, your body leaks the truth. This doesn't mean you must fake confidence with artificial gestures. It means you must learn to align your state with your intention, so your body supports, rather than sabotages, your message. The core elements of nonverbal communication. Let's break down the silent language into its key elements. 1. Posture. How you hold yourself sends signals instantly. An upright, open posture communicates confidence and presence. Slouching communicates insecurity or disinterest. Leaning slightly forward communicates engagement. Leaning back too far can signal disconnection or arrogance. 2. Gestures. Your hands amplify your message. Open palms suggest honesty and welcome. Pointing aggressively can feel threatening. Fidgeting signals nervous energy. Controlled, natural gestures emphasize key points. 3. Facial expressions. Your face is a window to your emotions. A genuine smile warms and disarms. Furrowed brows signal tension. Rolling eyes or smirks betray contempt. Your face often reveals what your words conceal. 4. Eye contact. Eyes are one of the most powerful communicators. Steady eye contact shows presence and respect. Too little can feel evasive. Too much can feel intimidating. The balance is authenticity. Looking at people long enough to connect, but not to dominate. 5. Tone of voice. The same words said in different tones mean different things. "I'm proud of you," said warmly inspires. "I'm proud of you," said flatly feels empty. "I'm proud of you," said sarcastically wounds. Tone carries emotion. Emotion colors meaning. 6. Silence. Silence is not empty. It speaks volumes. A pause can create suspense. Quiet can communicate disapproval. A long silence can convey thoughtfulness or discomfort. Silence is a tool, but also a message. 7. Space. The distance you keep from others signals intimacy or boundaries. Standing too close can feel invasive. Too far can feel cold. Skilled communicators are aware of space. A story of presence. I once worked with a young leader named Daniel. On paper, he had everything: intelligence, vision, drive. But when he spoke, people didn't follow. They couldn't say why. They just felt something was off. We reviewed a video of him presenting. His words were strong, but his body told another story. He leaned away from the audience, his hands clenched, his eyes darted. He was saying, "I believe in this vision." But his body was saying, "I'm nervous. I don't believe myself." Once he became aware, he practiced aligning his posture, gestures, and eye contact with his words. Slowly, his presence changed. The same message suddenly had impact, not because the words changed, but because his body supported them. That's the difference congruence makes. The cost of misalignment. When your words and signals don't match, people sense it. The politician who promises honesty but avoids eye contact. The partner who says, "I'm listening," while scrolling through their phone. The colleague who says, "I'm confident," but slouches with hands in pockets. The message gets lost. Trust erodes. We may not consciously notice every cue, but subconsciously we register them. Humans are experts at detecting inauthenticity, even if we can't explain it. Authenticity over acting. Now, here's an important warning. Nonverbal communication is not about faking. You probably read advice like stand tall, mirror body language, maintain power poses. While these tips can help, they can also backfire if they feel forced. People don't want actors. They want alignment. They want the real you embodied fully. So instead of memorizing gestures, focus on two things. Awareness, noticing what your body does naturally. Alignment, making sure your body supports your intention. Authenticity beats performance every time. Reading others. Nonverbal communication isn't only about you. It's also about perceiving others. When you tune into body language, you unlock hidden layers of meaning. Does someone's smile match their eyes? If not, it may be forced. Is someone leaning in with curiosity or leaning back with resistance? Are their arms crossed for warmth or as a shield? Reading these cues requires sensitivity, not judgment. It's not about labeling people. It's about noticing signals and responding with empathy. Cultural nuances. One caution, nonverbal language is not universal. In some cultures, direct eye contact is respect. In others, it's disrespect. A thumbs up may mean good in one country, but be offensive in another. Physical distance norms vary widely. So while body language has universal elements, it also has cultural filters. Always interpret cues with cultural awareness. Practical practices for nonverbal mastery. Here are steps to strengthen your nonverbal communication. Mirror check. Practice speaking in front of a mirror. Notice your posture, gestures, and facial expressions. Ask, does my body match my words? Video playback. Record yourself in conversation or presentation. Watch without sound first. What story does your body tell? The breath reset. Before entering a conversation, pause to breathe deeply. Relax your shoulders. Ground your posture. Presence starts with breath. Posture awareness. Throughout the day, check your stance. Are you slouching, crossing arms, shrinking? Reset to open, balanced posture. Eye contact exercise. In casual conversations, practice holding eye contact a little longer than usual. Notice how it changes the connection. Tone practice. Say the same sentence, I appreciate you, with different tones, warm, flat, sarcastic. Feel the difference. Choose consciously. Observe others. Watch interactions in public places. Notice nonverbal cues. What emotions or attitudes are revealed? This sharpens your perception. The power of stillness. Sometimes the most magnetic communicators are not those who gesture wildly, but those who embody calm stillness. A still, grounded presence communicates confidence. People lean in. They sense you don't need to prove yourself with motion. You are enough. Stillness can be louder than movement. Nonverbal healing. Nonverbal communication is not only about authority. It's also about healing. A hand on a shoulder. A warm hug. A look of compassion. A smile in a moment of pain. These can restore hope more than any speech. Sometimes people don't need your words. They need your presence. Closing reflection. Communication is not just verbal. It is embodied. Your words are powerful, yes, but your body, your tone, your silence, they are the frame that gives words their meaning. Remember, congruence builds trust. Silence speaks. Presence persuades. Authenticity outshines performance. So the next time you open your mouth, ask yourself, what is my body already saying? Because what you don't say is often louder than what you do. Chapter 7, The Power of the Pause. Imagine you're listening to a speaker. Their words rush out like a waterfall, fast and relentless. No breaths, no breaks, no space to think. At first, you try to keep up. You nod. You pretend you're with them. But slowly your mind drifts. You glance at the clock. You wonder what's for dinner. Now, picture another scene. A speaker says one sentence, then pauses. The silence hangs. You lean forward, waiting for what comes next. When the speaker finally continues, every word feels heavier, more deliberate. That's the power of the pause. Silence as presence. In a noisy world, silence stands out. We've been conditioned to fear it. We rush to fill gaps in conversation with ums and likes and filler words. We think silence signals awkwardness or ignorance. But in reality, silence is not absence. Silence is presence, magnified. A pause is not weakness. It's punctuation. It gives words shape, rhythm, and weight. Without pauses, speech becomes noise. With pauses, speech becomes music. Why pauses matter? Why does silence have such power? There are 3 key reasons. 1. Processing power. The human brain needs time to absorb information. When you pause, you give listeners space to digest, reflect, and feel. Without that space, your message washes over them without sticking. 2. Emotional resonance. Emotion lives in the space between words. A pause after an emotional sentence lets it sink into the heart. It transforms information into impact. 3. Authority and control. Those who pause project confidence. They show they're not afraid of silence. They control the rhythm of the room. Ironically, it's often the nervous speaker who rushes. The calm speaker who pauses commands attention. Stories of silence. History offers powerful examples of pauses used well. Martin Luther King Jr. didn't rush through, "I have a dream." He paused after a phrase, again and again. Each pause gave the crowd time to cheer, time to feel, time to remember. Barack Obama mastered the art of pausing mid-sentence. He would stop, look out at the audience, and let the anticipation build before continuing. Winston Churchill, in the darkest days of war, often used deliberate pauses in his speeches. Those silences carried more weight than any adjective could. It wasn't just the words that inspired. It was the rhythm, the tension created by silence, the fear of silence. Why are we so uncomfortable with pauses? Part of it is cultural. Many societies equate quick responses with intelligence. If you hesitate, people think you're unsure. Part of it is psychological. Silence exposes us. In the gap, we feel vulnerable. What if they judge me? What if they lose interest? So we cover the silence with noise, fillers, rambling, over-explaining. But here's the truth. The fear of silence is an illusion. Listeners rarely mind a pause. In fact, they appreciate it. It gives them breathing room. The discomfort is mostly in the speaker's head. Different types of pauses. Not all pauses are the same. Let's explore the varieties. 1. Impact pause. Used after a powerful statement. Example, your words can change a life. Pause. The silence makes the sentence echo longer. 2. Suspense pause. Used before revealing something important. Example, and when I opened the letter, I couldn't believe what I saw. Pause. 3. Reflective pause. Used to invite thought or empathy. Example, think about the last time someone really listened to you. Pause. 4. Transition pause. Used to signal a shift in topic or tone. Example, we've explored the challenges. Now, let's look at the opportunities. Pause. 5. Breath pause. Simply to breathe, but don't underestimate it. Breath anchors presence. Pauses in conversation. Pauses aren't just for speeches. They're just as powerful in everyday interactions. In conflict, a pause before replying prevents escalation. In persuasion, a pause after a question forces the other person to think. In listening, a pause instead of interruption shows respect. A well-timed pause can save a relationship, calm a room, or turn a casual chat into a deep exchange. The neuroscience of pausing. Science backs up what great speakers intuitively know. Studies in cognitive psychology show that people retain information better when it's delivered with pauses. Our brains chunk information into meaningful units. Without pauses, there are no chunks, just overload. Other studies reveal that silence activates different parts of the brain than constant speech. In silence, the listener's brain processes emotion and meaning more deeply. In short, silence doesn't kill communication. It supercharges it. Practicing the pause. Like any skill, pausing can be trained. Here are methods to build comfort with silence. 1. Read aloud with pauses. Choose a passage and mark where you want to pause after a sentence, after an emotional word. Practice reading with deliberate silences. 2. The 3-second rule. After making a key point, count silently to 3 before continuing. It will feel long to you, but to the audience, it feels powerful. 3. Record and review. Record yourself speaking. Notice where you rush. Insert pauses there. Play it back. Your speech will sound instantly more impactful. 4. Pause in conversations. Next time someone asks you a question, don't answer immediately. Take a breath. Think. Then reply. Watch how it changes the tone. 5. Embrace silence daily. Spend 5 minutes a day in pure silence. No phone, no talking. Just sit. Learn to befriend silence. Pause is an emotion. Pauses are not mechanical. They carry emotional charge. A pause before bad news builds gravity. A pause after a joke invites laughter. A pause in a story makes the listener lean in. If words are the notes, pauses are rests. And music without rest is just noise. A story of a pause that changed everything. A young woman named Sarah once gave a talk about mental health. She spoke bravely about her struggles with depression. At one point, she said, "There were days when I didn't want to be here anymore." And then she stopped. She didn't rush to soften it. She didn't ramble. She just stood there, silent. The room froze. People held their breath. Some wiped tears. When she continued, she said softly, "But I'm still here, and I want you to know you can be too." That pause turned her story from moving to unforgettable. Pausing as respect. There's another hidden dimension. Pausing shows respect. When you pause, you're saying, "I won't rush you. I'll give you space." Respect for the audience. Respect for the message. Respect for yourself. Common mistakes with pauses. Of course, like any tool, pauses can be misused. Pausing too long. A pause that drags becomes uncomfortable. Listeners wonder if you've lost your place. Pausing randomly. Pauses need intention. Otherwise, they feel like stumbles. Filling pauses with noise. Saying, or cancels the power of silence. Let silence be silent. The art is balance. Just enough silence to create rhythm and weight, not so much that it derails flow. Exercises to master pausing. Here's a toolkit to practice pausing deliberately. Storytelling pause drill. Tell a short story and insert 3 pauses. 1 before suspense, 1 after emotion, 1 at the ending. Mirror pause exercise. Practice speaking in front of a mirror. Pause and hold eye contact with yourself. Build comfort with the stillness. Silence response drill. In conversations, when someone says something important, wait 2 seconds before replying. Notice how much deeper the dialogue feels. Breathing ladder. Practice breathing in for 4 counts, holding for 4 counts, speaking 1 line, then pausing for 4 counts. This builds rhythm. Audience practice. In casual conversations, experiment with pausing before answering questions. Ask a trusted friend later how it felt. They'll likely say you seem more thoughtful and confident. Closing reflection. The pause is small but mighty. It costs nothing, yet it adds immense value. It slows you down, calms your nerves, magnifies your words, and deepens your connection. Most people fear silence, but those who master it discover something magical. Silence doesn't kill communication. It completes it. So the next time you speak, whether to a crowd, a colleague, or a loved one, don't just think about what words to use. Think about what silence is to leave. Because sometimes the most powerful part of a message is not what you say, but the pause between the words. Chapter 8. Stories that leave a mark. Close your eyes for a moment. Think back to your childhood. Can you recall a math lesson from the 3rd grade? Probably not. But what about a story? Maybe the fairy tale your grandmother told you before bed. Maybe the adventure movie you watched 100 times. Maybe a story your teacher once shared that made you laugh or cry. You remember stories. You carry them. You repeat them. That is a unique power of storytelling. Why stories stick? We live in a world obsessed with data. Facts, statistics, graphs. Useful, yes, but forgettable. Stories, on the other hand, bypass the rational brain and dive straight into the emotional core. They trigger memory, empathy, imagination. Science shows that when we hear a story, our brains release oxytocin, the connection hormone. Our minds don't just process words, they simulate the experience. If someone tells you about climbing a mountain, your brain lights up as if you are climbing too. Stories are not just entertainment, they are simulation. They allow us to live other lives without leaving our seat. The oldest technology. Long before books, podcasts, or videos, humans sat around fires telling stories. Stories taught survival, which plants to eat, which animals to fear. Stories carried values, loyalty, courage, kindness. Stories build identity, who we are, where we come from, where we belong. Storytelling is the oldest form of education, and it's still the most effective. That's why the greatest leaders, teachers, and change makers are storytellers first. A tale of two presentations. Let me illustrate with a true example. Two executives were pitching ideas for a new health campaign. The first filled his slides with data, percentages of obesity, rates of disease, healthcare costs. The information was solid, but the audience looked restless, eyes glazing over. The second executive began differently. She said, "Last year, a boy named Miguel walked into a clinic. He was 12 years old, but he already had type 2 diabetes. His mother was terrified. Miguel wasn't overweight because he was lazy. He was overweight because his family lived in a food desert where the only nearby options were fast food and convenience stores." And suddenly, the room leaned in. People wanted to know more. The statistics that followed now had context, had a face, had meaning. Both presentations had data. Only one had a story, and only one left a mark. The anatomy of a story. So, what makes a story unforgettable? Let's break it down. 1. Characters. Every story needs someone to root for. A character is the bridge between the listener and the message. It doesn't have to be a hero with a sword. It can be you, a customer, a friend, even a child like Miguel. 2. Conflict. No conflict, no story. Conflict is the heartbeat of narrative. It's the challenge, the obstacle, the thing that must be faced. Without it, a story is just description. 3. Change. Great stories show transformation. A before and after. The character starts one way, faces something hard, and ends changed. This shift is what makes stories meaningful. 4. Message. Every story teaches something, even if it's subtle. A moral, a lesson, an insight. Without a message, a story is just noise. With a message, it becomes a gift. The hero's journey. Perhaps the most famous storytelling structure is the hero's journey, identified by mythologist Joseph Campbell. It goes like this. The hero lives in an ordinary world. Something disrupts it, a call to adventure. The hero resists, then accepts. They face trials, allies, enemies. They hit rock bottom, then find strength. They transform. They return home, changed, bringing a gift for others. Think of Frodo in The Lord of the Rings, or Moana, or Harry Potter. Different worlds, same pattern. But here's the secret. You don't need dragons or magic to use this structure. Even everyday stories follow it. You face a problem at work. You struggled, doubted, tried solutions. You found an answer. You came out wiser. That's a hero's journey too. Authenticity over perfection. Many people avoid storytelling because they think, I don't have exciting stories. I haven't climbed Everest or survived a war. But the stories that leave the deepest mark are not always the most spectacular. They are the most authentic. A story about your first job, your first failure, your first heartbreak, told with honesty, can resonate more than an epic adventure. Because people don't connect with perfection. They connect with vulnerability. The science of emotion in storytelling. Here's what research tells us. Stories that evoke sadness increase empathy and generosity. Stories that evoke joy increase bonding and trust. Stories that evoke suspense keep attention high. Stories that evoke surprise make memories stick. When you tell a story, don't just recount events. Share how you felt. Fear, hope, shame, pride. Emotion is the glue. Common storytelling mistakes. Let's pause to highlight traps to avoid. Overloading with details. Too many specifics dilute the core. Choose details that serve the message. No clear point. If listeners ask, "So what?" you've lost them. Always know the purpose. Making yourself the untouchable hero. It's fine to tell personal wins, but include the struggle. Perfect heroes don't inspire. Human heroes do. Too long. The best stories are sharp. Cut the fluff. A story that heals. I once met a man named David who shared his journey through addiction. He stood in front of a group and said, "For years, I lied to everyone. But the person I lied to most was myself. I told myself I was in control. I told myself I could stop whenever I wanted. Until one day, my daughter looked at me and said, 'Daddy, why don't you smile anymore?' That broke me. And that's the day I decided to change. There was silence. Some people cried. David didn't use fancy words. He didn't recite data about recovery programs. He told his story raw and simple. And that story gave others hope that they too could change. Stories can heal. Practical steps to build your storytelling skill. Here are tools to begin weaving stories that leave a mark. 1. Collect stories. Start a story journal. Write down experiences, big or small. That awkward meeting. That moment you laughed with a stranger. That time you failed, then tried again. Every moment is potential material. 2. Frame the story. Ask, who is the character? What is the conflict? How do they change? What's the lesson? 3. Use sensory details. Instead of "I was nervous," say, "My palms were sweating and my heart thumped so loud, I thought everyone could hear it." Sensory detail makes stories real. 4. Practice timing. Stories need rhythm. Don't rush. Don't drag. Use pauses. Let the listener imagine. 5. End with impact. Always land the plane. Tie the story to the lesson. Leave your audience with a thought, a feeling, a spark. Exercises. Let's practice. 2-minute story. Take a personal experience and tell it in under 2 minutes. Trim until only the essence remains. Emotion swap. Pick a neutral story, like buying groceries, and retell it as comedy, then as tragedy. Notice how emotion changes impact, before and after. Tell a story where you show the before, the struggle, and the after. This is transformation. Audience lens. Retell the same story for a child, a colleague, and a close friend. Adjust tone and detail for each. Pause drill. Insert one pause before revealing the climax. Feel the suspense it creates. Closing reflection. Facts inform. Stories transform. A fact can win an argument, but a story can win a heart. A fact may be forgotten tomorrow, but a story may live for decades, retold again and again. You already carry hundreds of stories within you. Moment of failure, growth, love, doubt, courage. They are waiting to be told. So tell them, share them, shape them, because one story, spoken with honesty and heart, can leave a mark that lasts a lifetime. Chapter 9, Handling Difficult Conversations. There's a certain kind of conversation we all dread. It keeps us awake at night. It sits heavy in our chest. We rehearse it in our minds over and over, telling someone they hurt you, admitting you made a mistake, asking for what you really need, saying no, setting a boundary, discussing money, politics, illness, or death. We postpone it. We avoid it. We hope it will disappear on its own, but it doesn't. It festers. Silence may delay conflict, but it rarely heals it. The truth is simple and uncomfortable. Avoiding hard conversations costs us more than having them. Why we avoid difficult conversations? Before we learn to face them, we need to understand why they scare us. Fear of conflict. We worry that speaking up will spark an argument, that voices will rise, emotions will flare, and the relationship will fracture. Fear of rejection. Deep down, many of us fear that if we reveal our truth, the other person may not accept us. Fear of hurting others. We don't want to cause pain, so we stay quiet, even if the silence is already hurting. Fear of uncertainty. We can't predict how the other person will respond. That unpredictability feels dangerous. These fears are valid, but here's the paradox. While difficult conversations carry risk, avoiding them carries certainty. Certainty of resentment, disconnection, and missed opportunity for growth. A story of avoidance. Maria had a colleague, John, who constantly interrupted her during meetings. She felt disrespected, invisible. Every time it happened, she swallowed her frustration. It's not worth it, she told herself. Months passed. Her resentment grew. She started avoiding projects with John. The team dynamic soured. Finally, her manager asked why she seemed disengaged. Maria broke down, confessing the truth. The manager asked, "Why didn't you just tell him?" Maria realized she had been punishing both herself and the team just to avoid one uncomfortable conversation. When she finally spoke to John, she discovered he wasn't even aware of his behavior. He apologized and changed immediately. Maria learned what many of us forget. The conversations we avoid are often easier than the stories we invent about them. The cost of silence. Unspoken truths have a way of leaking out. They show up as sarcasm, distance, passive aggressiveness. Or worse, they build until they explode. A marriage can erode, not because of one huge fight, but because of 1,000 little things left unsaid. A friendship can fade, not because of betrayal, but because resentment quietly piled up. A workplace can become toxic, not because of bad policies, but because no one dared to address issues directly. Silence is not neutral. Silence communicates too, and often it communicates disconnection. Reframing the purpose. Here's a mindset shift. A difficult conversation is not about winning or losing. It's not about proving right or wrong. The real purpose is this: to create understanding, not victory. Once you redefine success this way, the fear softens. You don't need to control the outcome. You just need to show up, speak your truth, and listen. The 3 pillars of difficult conversations. Let's break it down into 3 essential elements. 1. Preparation. A hard conversation is not something to blurt out in the heat of anger. Preparation is key. Ask yourself, what is my intention? To express? To understand? To set a boundary? What emotions am I bringing? Anger? Hurt? Fear? What outcome would I like? Preparation is not scripting every word. It's clarify your purpose. 2. Empathy. Empathy does not mean agreeing. It means trying to understand the other person's perspective. When you show empathy, defenses lower and real dialogue becomes possible. 3. Communication skills. This includes tone, body language, word choice. It means staying calm even if the other person isn't. It means speaking from I instead of accusing with you. Framework, the 4-step method. Here's a practical method to handle difficult conversations. Step 1. State the facts. Describe what happened objectively, without judgment. Cross-mark, you're always rude to me. White heavy check mark in yesterday's meeting. You spoke while I was presenting. Facts are less threatening than accusations. Step 2. Express your feelings. Share how the situation affected you. Cross-mark, you don't care about me. White heavy check mark, I felt dismissed when that happened. Feelings are harder to argue with. They reveal your truth without attacking. Step 3. Share your need. Be clear about what you hope for. Crossmark. You should stop being so selfish. White heavy check mark. I need space to finish my thoughts without interruptions. This shifts the focus from blame to solutions. Step 4. Invite dialogue. Give the other person space to respond. How did you see it? What's your perspective? How can we move forward together? This keeps the conversation two-way, not one-sided. A real-life example. Imagine a couple, Sarah and Tom. Sarah feels Tom spends too much time on his phone during dinner. She could attack. You're addicted to that thing. You never care about me. Or she could use the 4-step method. Fact, I notice you're often on your phone while we eat. Feeling, that makes me feel ignored. Need, I'd love for dinner to be a time where we focus on each other. Dialogue. What do you think? How can we make this work for both of us? One approach sparks defensiveness. The other sparks understanding. Listening, the other half. Difficult conversations are not just about what you say. They're also about what you hear. Most of us listen to respond. But in hard conversations, you must listen to understand. This means, don't interrupt. Reflect back what you hear. So you felt overlooked. Is that right? Validate, even if you disagree. I can see why that upset you. Validation is not agreement. It's acknowledgement. And acknowledgement heals. Staying calm in the storm. What if the other person reacts badly? What if they shout, accuse, or shut down? Your task is to stay centered. Breathe. Slow. Deep breaths regulate your nervous system. Lower your voice. Calm is contagious. Pause. If things get too heated, say, I think we need a break. Let's come back to this later. Remember, you can't control their reaction. You can only control your presence. Boundaries in difficult conversations. Sometimes the healthiest outcome is not agreement, but clarity. Boundaries are not walls. They're lines that define what you will and won't accept. Examples. I'm willing to discuss this, but not if you raise your voice. I can't lend you money, but I can help you budget. I respect your view, but I don't share it. Boundaries protect dignity on both sides. Stories of courage. Story 1, the apology. James had avoided telling his friend that he had gossiped about him. He feared losing the friendship. Finally, he confessed, I need to own something. I repeated something you told me, and I regret it. I'm sorry. His friend was hurt, but he forgave him. Their friendship grew stronger. Story 2, the boundary. Elena's mother-in-law often criticized her parenting. After years of silence, Elena said, I know you love my children, but when you criticize me in front of them, it hurts. Please bring concerns to me privately. It was uncomfortable, but it changed the dynamic forever. These stories remind us discomfort is temporary, but the freedom of honesty is lasting. Practical exercises. Rehearse with a friend. Role-play the conversation with someone you trust. Practice staying calm. Journal the dialogue. Write down what you'd like to say. Then rewrite it with empathy and clarity. Record yourself. Practice speaking your truth aloud. Hearing yourself helps refine tone. Start small. Don't begin with your most terrifying conversation. Start with something minor. Build confidence. Reflect afterwards. After each hard talk, ask, what went well? What could I improve? Did I stay true to myself? The gift of difficult conversations. It may sound strange, but difficult conversations are gifts. They are opportunities for growth, intimacy, and truth. When you have them, you build trust, because honesty is trust. Deepen connection, because vulnerability breeds closeness. Gain freedom, because holding back truth is a heavy burden. The very conversations you fear may become the ones that change your life. Closing reflection. Difficult conversations are not the end of connection. They are the gateway to real connection. Remember, avoidance creates distance. Honesty creates possibility. Courage creates freedom. So the next time you feel your stomach twist at the thought of a conversation, pause, breathe, then step in with preparation, empathy, and clarity. It may not be easy. It may not be smooth, but it will be real. And real is always worth it. Chapter 10, Persuading Without Manipulating. From the time we are children, we practice persuasion. A toddler cries until they get picked up. A child pleads, just 5 more minutes before bed. A teenager argues passionately for the car keys. An adult pitches an idea at work or asks for a raise. We persuade because we live with others. To survive, to cooperate, to lead, we must influence. But influence can walk 2 paths. One is manipulation, forcing, tricking, or guilting someone into agreement. The other is persuasion, inviting someone to see what you see, to feel what you feel, to choose freely. One path breeds resistance and mistrust. The other builds connection and lasting change. This chapter is about choosing the second path. The misunderstood art of persuasion. Many people equate persuasion with manipulation. They picture slick salesmen, politicians twisting words, or marketers preying on insecurities. But persuasion at its core is not deceit. It is simply the art of presenting your truth in a way that others can receive. Persuasion done well is not coercion. It is service. It helps someone see value they may have overlooked. It creates clarity. It makes action easier. Think of persuasion as a bridge, not a cage. The ethics of influence. Before we explore techniques, let's establish a compass. Manipulation says, I win, you lose. Your needs don't matter. I'll twist your emotions to control you. Persuasion says, we both win. Your perspective matters. I'll appeal to reason, emotion, and values with honesty. The difference lies not in the method, but in the intention. The same story, statistic, or question can be either manipulative or persuasive depending on why and how it's used. So the first rule of persuasion is this: your goal must be mutual benefit, not selfish gain. A story of manipulation versus persuasion. Imagine two managers try and motivate their team to work overtime. Manager A manipulates. If you really care about this company, you'd stay late. Anyone who leaves clearly doesn't value their job. Fear and guilt drive compliance, but morale drops. Manager B persuades, I know overtime is hard, but if we finish this project by Friday, it will save us all weeks of stress later. I'll stay here with you, and I'll make sure everyone gets extra time off next month. Here, the team feels respected. They see the benefit. They choose to help. Both got overtime, but only one built trust. The psychology of persuasion. Persuasion works because it speaks to how humans actually think and decide. Psychologists have identified 6 core principles. Robert Cialdini made them famous. Reciprocity. People feel inclined to return favors. Scarcity. People value what feels rare or limited. Authority. People trust credible, knowledgeable sources. Consistency. People want to act in line with their commitments. Liking. People are influenced by those they like and trust. Social proof. People look to others when unsure how to act. Used ethically, these principles can inspire action. Used manipulatively, they can exploit. The key is awareness and intention, the core of ethical persuasion. Let's simplify. Ethical persuasion rests on 3 pillars: credibility, clarity, and care. Credibility, do they trust you? Are you walking your talk? Clarity, do they understand your message? Is it simple and focused? Care, do they feel you want the best of them, not just for you? When these 3 align, your influence grows naturally. The anatomy of a persuasive message. A persuasive message usually has 3 layers. Logic, the head clear reasons, data, evidence. Emotion, the heart stories, values, feelings. Trust, the gut believability, authenticity, congruence. Leave one out and persuasion weakens. Facts alone bore. Emotion alone manipulates. Trust alone without substance feels empty. Together, they create balance. How to persuade without manipulating. Here's a framework for ethical persuasion. Step 1, know your audience. You can't persuade if you don't understand what matters to them. Ask, what do they value? What do they fear? What do they need right now? This doesn't mean pandering. It means connecting your message to their reality. Step 2, frame the benefit. People don't buy products, they buy outcomes. They don't accept ideas, they accept solutions. Show how your proposal makes their life easier, better, or more meaningful. Step 3, tell a story. Data convinces the brain. Stories move the heart. Use both. A single vivid story often has more impact than 100 statistics. Step 4, ask, don't force. Great persuaders use questions. What would happen if you tried this approach? How would your team feel if this problem was solved? Questions spark ownership. If the idea feels like theirs, you don't need to push. Step 5, respect autonomy. Always leave room for choice. True persuasion empowers, not pressures. A decision made freely lasts longer than one made under duress. Stories of persuasion done right. Story 1, the teacher. A high school teacher noticed students ignoring their homework instead of yelling. He told them a story about a former student who struggled in college because she never built study habits. He asked, do you want to feel unprepared like she did? Suddenly, students leaned in. Homework completion rose, not from fear, but from relevance. Story 2, the entrepreneur. An entrepreneur pitching investors didn't start with spreadsheets. She started with a story. 2 years ago, my father nearly died because the ambulance took 40 minutes. That's why I built this app, to cut response time in half. The investors saw not just numbers, but urgency and humanity. They funded her idea. The subtle power of language. Words shape perception. Here are shifts that make persuasion ethical and effective. Instead of, you have to do this, say, here's why this will help you. Instead of, you'll regret it if you don't, say, imagine the relief you'll feel if you do. Instead of, trust me, say, here's the evidence. You can decide. Persuasion is not about cornering people. It's about opening doors, handling resistance. No matter how well you persuade, some will resist. That's natural. Here's how to respond without manipulation. Listen first. Let them share their doubts fully. Validate concerns. I see why that worries you. Offer clarity, not pressure. Here's how we've addressed that. Respect a no. Sometimes no is final. Forcing passive breaks trust. Persuasion in everyday life. Persuasion is not limited to speeches or sales. It shows up everywhere. Convincing a friend to watch a new show. Encouraging your partner to try a healthier habit. Inspiring your child to believe in themselves. Rallying a team to pursue a vision. Every time you speak with clarity, empathy, and intention, you practice.